As promised, video number 2 dealing with Charlemagne. We're going to do the same process as we did last time. We're going to look at doing 3 things. Number 1, we're going to do our MLA citation. Number 2, we're going to do our close reading, highlighting, and margin notes. And number 3, we're going to do the summary at the end. Remember that all 3 of these elements are what I'm going to be looking for on your documents. And also remember, and I think I did a pretty good job of outlining it in the previous video, you're not going to run this thing dry. You're going to be very judicious with your highlighting. You're not going to go crazy. It's not going to impress me when you're highlighting things that don't matter. So, here we go. As with all of the other documents, the top of the page has everything that we're looking for in regards to our MLA citation. So Charlemagne people, I'm expecting that you have this document because I'm tired of holding this document up and trying to guess whether or not it's showing up on my little laptop built-in camera, trying to figure out if it's actually in frame or not. So I'm just going to talk and you're going to follow along with me with your document A for your Charlemagne packet ready to go. The top line is the title. Now that title could be a book title, it could be an article title. And remember that our clue is whether or not it's italicized or not. If it's italicized, it's the book title. And if it's not, we can assume it's an article title of some nature, probably from a scholarly journal. Because in college, you're either getting your research out of a book or you're getting it out of a scholarly journal, if you're not doing actual direct research either in the field or in the lab. So we have the impact of Charlemagne on the institutions of the Frankish realm. Right now you should be saying to yourself, Mr. Curry, hold on to your pen, and then the next thing you're going to be saying to yourself is, I think that's an article title, but I'm going to look further down to see if there's an actual journal title down below. We have an author, Francois L. Gonchoff, or Gonchoff, or whatever. And then we have source, the speculum, and it's in italics. We have volume and a number and a month and a year and page numbers 47 through 62. That's not an entire book. Everything that we need to know about what type of document this is, we now have confirmed. It's a scholarly article. Just like with the potato famine, we go to my website and we bring up the How to Cite Using MLA, and we find articles from a scholarly journal. And it says the first thing that we identify is the author. The author is Gonchoff, last name first. So I'm going to write MLA just to say to Mr. Curry, here's my MLA citation. I'm going to start with his last name, Gansoff, comma, first name, L. Now the dot for L serves as the fact that we're abbreviating his middle name, but it also serves as the end period that says his name ends here. Now, when we look at our form, we see after the author it says title of article. We know the title of the article is The Impact of Charlemagne on the Institutions of the Frankish Realm. Now I'm going to do something that I don't want you to do. I've done this little, just wrote the first couple of words, ... last word. I'm doing that just so I can get everything on the top line so that you can see it. I want you to write out the whole title. That's what I'll be looking for. Okay, so after the title, we need the name of the source. And the source here is speculum. Since you're handwriting, you can underline it. When you word process it, you will italicize it. Remember, a period signifies the end of each major section of the entry, so you put a period after speculum. Now you need your volume, and your number. Now, for the potato famine, we didn't have a volume. We just had a number. But this time, we do have a volume. So we have volume and then a period, the number, and then the year in parentheses, followed by a colon, and then the page numbers, and finally a period. Okay? That's speculum period. 40 dot, what is that, 2? 40.1. You don't have to write VOL and you don't have to write NO because MLA says that the number followed by a period followed by another number before the parentheses and the year, that's volume and number. It's always going to be volume and number. To put VOL in front of the actual number of the volume, to write VOL 40 would be redundant. And MLA is about streamlining the information. It says this slot's only for the volume, this slot's only for the number. So if you have a volume, you put it in there. And if you don't, you leave it blank and you move on to the number. Now, what you're going to notice is there's information on this entry that we're not using. We're not using January, and we're not using published by. That's additional information that's in here. But it's not information that lives inside the MLA citation. So just follow the document, follow my website link that talks about which MLA stuff you include in your Works Consulted page. We do have one last thing, and that's our medium of publication. I know I'm giving this to you technically on the web, but these all come from journals or books, so we're just going to call it print. So the last thing that I write in is the word print. So this is what it looks like. Author's name. Last name comes before the first name. The title of the article. But you're not going to abbreviate it. You're going to write the whole title in there. It's a lot of words, but I have faith in you. The source, the volume, the number, the year, the page numbers, and then print, even though we got it off the web. Time for the close reading. While the decisive influence of Charlemagne on the institutions of the Frankish monarchy is well known, what is more obscure, and what is here to be discussed in detail, is the manner in which Charlemagne wielded this influence. If you said to yourself right now, that sounds like an introductory sentence, you would be right. Is there anything to highlight in here? No. If you were going to write a margin note to let me know that you know what's going on in this paragraph, you just might write introduction to article. Fair enough. This was done chiefly through the capitularies, which were decrees divided into articles, capitulum, by which the Carolingian monarchs issued legislative and administrative provisions. There's a couple things here which are interesting. Number one, we do get a new word, capitularies. But then the article does give the definition, so that's nice. But then there's this word Carolingian, and if you don't remember what Carolingian is, you weren't paying attention to your Middle Ages reading. Let's pretend for a moment that I don't remember what Carolingian is. It's okay to highlight it and make a little note that says, find out what this is. Just as long as you ultimately get around to finding out what this is. What can we say about this? Method of administration. That's really all it is. It's an interesting detail, but I may have to come back to it later, but I'm not really wild about it. Among other things one finds here in the capitulum, supported by biblical quotations, the fundamental rule of the Carolinian method of government: there must be peace and concord, that is to say, trust and collaboration, between the ecclesiastical authorities and the secular agents of royal power. If you don't know what ecclesiastical and secular mean, well, one's church and one's not church. Ecclesiastical church, secular non-church. I know it's a little more complicated than that, but I'm trying to keep things quick and short. There must be peace and concord, trust and collaboration between the ecclesiastical authorities and the secular agents of royal power. In different forms, this rule was very often repeated later, and though in theory it remained a leading principle for the functioning of institutions, in practice it was not always effective. In different forms, this rule was very often repeated later. That seems like it takes us out of the time frame of Charlemagne. I may have to do some more reading. But when we talk about how he ran his government, peace and trust between the church authorities and the non-church authorities. So, like harmony in the working elements of the church and the state. So this is a way that he ran his government. Peace between church and state. Moving on to the next paragraph. From the group of institutions strongly influenced by Charlemagne, central institutions of the realm, regional administrative institutions, judicial institutions, manorial institutions, military institutions, vassalage, coinage, weights and measures, I have chosen the judicial institutions to illustrate what has been described. Their object was to secure for each individual the possibility of having his rights recognized, established, and protected, and to ensure the respect for law, a prevailing concern about Charlemagne. This first part talks about all of the things that Charlemagne influenced. Regional administration, judicial institutions, manorial institutions, military, the rules of being a vassal, coins, weights and measures, just means standards really, like what is a pound, what is a foot, things like that. But then he says, I have chosen to talk about. So that means he's given a list of things that Charlemagne has influenced, but that's not something that you would highlight. It's not something that you would highlight because it's not data. It's an observation, but it's not data. It doesn't actually say what the impact on weights and measures was. It doesn't say exactly what the impact on coinage was. Actually, those are going to come up in future documents. But it doesn't talk about like how he impacts vassalages. He says he's going to impact judicial, he's going to talk about Charlemagne's impact on judicial institutions. So that brings us to the following line. Secure for each individual the possibility of having his rights recognized, established, and protected, and to ensure the respect for law, a prevailing concern of Charlemagne. So this is talking about Charlemagne's impact on law. I'm not going to write out Charlemagne, I'm just going to write out Charles. Charles's impact on law. Within the judicial institutions, I shall limit my discussion to the organization, leaving out the substance of the law, the system of evidence, and the course of procedure once the lawsuit was begun. Even within judicial organization, I shall not go beyond the ordinary court, that is, the county court or malice, and only occasionally shall I refer to the judicial assizes of the Missi Dominici or to the palace court. This is all just him setting up the framework of his observations and arguments. It's not really data, so you would completely skip that paragraph. And in a margin note, I would write, he specifies what he will examine. arbitrary actions liable to affect people's lives of their possessions were prohibited. To hang a man, even when he seemingly was caught in the act, was forbidden on pain of severe penalty, even if it concerned a serf. Regular judicial procedure had to be applied, even if it be the summary procedure of flagrante delicto. Find out what flagrante delicto means. I think you'll find it's already defined in here, but it's always a good idea to say, I don't know what that is. I'm going to write a little question mark on the outside. The Frankish judicial procedure concerning goods apparently belonging to no one was introduced in Bavarian law to forbid in Bavaria the appropriation of goods that might have been lost by someone or stolen from him. The emperor's concern for equity stretched out to those who had been condemned to death, but to whom mercy had been granted. Their person and their goods legally acquired after the granting of pardon had the benefit of protection by the law courts. So there's some really cool stuff going on in here. First of all, we talk about to hang a man, even when he was seemingly caught in the act, was forbidden on pain of severe penalty. Even if it concerned a serf, regular judicial procedure had to be applied. Even if it be the summary procedure of flagrante delicto. Once we figure out what that is, I think you'll find that it goes in very well. Everybody gets treated the same. The procedure had to be applied. Regular judicial procedure had to be applied, even to serfs. I don't know if that happened 100% of the time, but according to this author, it seems like there's judicial equity up and down the social ladder. And then the emperor's concern for equity stretched out to those who had been condemned to death, but to whom mercy had been granted. Their person and their goods, legally acquired after the granting of pardon, had the benefit of protection by the law courts. So if I was condemned to death and I lost all my stuff, if I was pardoned, it sounds like I could get my stuff back. The emperor's concern for equity. More judicial equity. So at the end of the day, I have not highlighted a whole lot. In previous years, I've had students just highlight whole paragraphs, and it's like, well, what good is that? You can't possibly quote all of that. Ask yourself this when you are ready to apply your highlighter. Is something specific being done to something or someone else? If the answer is no, then it's probably not data that's usable for us. But if it's Charlemagne, somebody, providing judicial equity, something, to serfs, even if they've been caught in the act, that's the doing something to someone else. That's a specific picture. You can close your eyes and you can envision Charlemagne saying, "You there, you mustn't whip that serf. Regular judicial procedures must be followed. And go kill some more non-believers." He would totally have said that, in that voice, with a pen in his hand. I've almost got Charlemagne's beard. I'm working on it. Anyway, so that's it, except for the summary. We have to get to the summary now. I think the summary can work in a couple of sentences. I'm only going to write part of one sentence because I'm tired and I'm closing in on 20 minutes on this video. This article examines Charlemagne's impact on Frankish judicial systems. He appears to have valued judicial equity for all, and protection of some rights and property. Done. And I was going slow. If you're not making a video and stopping as often as I am, and you consider that this took me 20 minutes, you can get this done, a full page document, you can get this done in under 20 minutes. So, anyway, easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? So, Sunday, do a couple documents. Bring in those documents on Monday. We're going to have some time to work on them in class, and then we'll get checkpoint 2 turned in. Spread the word. Those of you who are watching these videos, text, email your friends. Spread the word that these videos are up, and spread the word that people still need to be working on getting their documents done. Spread the word that they need to bring their documents in on Monday so that we can have a little bit of time to wrap it up, and then we'll collect them on Monday. So, hopefully you enjoyed the Mr. Curry Experience Online Walla Walla edition, courtesy of the local Best Western, and we'll see you guys Monday.